ABC Radio Melbourne and ABC Victoria. You're with Lisa Leong.
On ABC Radio, we're here live at Olympic Park. We're doing On the Money right now, 1300 222 774. If you've got questions for Rachel Lane, she's from Aged Care Gurus, and we're talking about downsizing this morning. G'day, Rachel.
Good morning, Lisa.
And we're talking about downsizing. Why might we downsize, Rachel?
Well, there tends to be two very good reasons why people choose to downsize. They downsize to free up money. So because they're going to sell their house and typically buy a cheaper house, it frees up the equity in their home, and they want to do that either to invest or spend. They might want to travel. They might want to buy a new caravan, a new car, a new boat, or they might want to, as you touched on before, put it into superannuation. The other thing that it frees up is time. So they don't want to spend so much time maintaining a garden, looking after a swimming pool that no one swims in, you know, getting leaves out of gutters that's kind of dangerous, you know.
The cost of even keeping a whole house warm, you know, all of those things.
All of that. Yeah. And then all the other bits and pieces like your council rates and, you know, everything,
And is there a perfect time or age to downsize, Rachel?
Look, the most common downsizing regret that I hear is that people didn't make the move sooner.
Really?
So I think the trick to it is that once you start thinking about it, then it's time to start taking those steps to think about, is this right for me? Where would I go? You know, where would I want to live? Who would I want to live with? Those sorts of questions, because it is a big move. Often people have bought their family home and they've bought it with the intention of it being their forever home. And so this idea that you leave it and leave behind the memories and all of that can be quite hard. So I think starting early is a really good idea.
What happens when you leave it too late? What are the stories?
Yeah, so this is what a lot of people have said to me, is that it's kind of like you have windows of time. And if you don't make the move at a certain point in time, you actually get to the point where you can't make that move. So if it is something that you want to do, we've got lots of exercises and calculators. The new edition of the book is able to be pre-ordered now, and it will be out for Christmas. But we've got lots of exercises on the website, because not everything you can put on a page. So we've got calculators. For example, one of the new calculators we've got is about the cost of downsizing, because some people use this rule of thumb. They go, well, I'm going to sell my house. Let's just use round numbers. I'm going to sell my house for $800,000. I'm going to buy my new house for $600,000. I'll have $200,000 in my pocket. No, you won't. You've got to factor in, what is it going to cost you to sell that house? Yeah. What is it going to cost you to actually move? And what is it going to cost you to buy your new house? And then, so that's what the calculator does. It works all of that out. And then it says, okay, this is how much you're going to have in your hot little hand that you can either invest or spend.
And when you're doing these calculations and you're planning for these things, how long should you actually factor in? Is it going to take 2 years or 5 years or 10 years to actually downsize, Rachel?
That's a bit like saying how long's a piece of string.
That's what I'm asking. I want to know how long the piece of string is.
How long is a piece of string? So some of the downsizers, because we've got real life stories in the book as well, some of the downsizers, they've moved really fast. And when I say really fast, 3 or 4 months. Yep. And bear in mind that also involved them selling their home. So to buy a new house, sell your existing house, settle it and move in 3 or 4 months is really quick. Most people take just under 12 months from the time they decide they're going to downsize. The thing to speeding up that process is really not taking so long in what I call the consideration phase. So people sometimes spend years in the consideration phase, which is this really is getting a little bit hard. Maybe we should downsize.
I'm calling it analysis paralysis.
Exactly.
And Joyce has called through on 1300 222 774. Good morning, Joyce.
Hello.
Hello. I think you've done some downsizing yourself, Joyce.
I have. A lot of people don't know about this housing system in Australia, but it's called Abbeyfield, and it's for people over 55 to downsize into. You've got supported, help in your accommodation, but it's not aged care, and you go into, this particular place is in North Melbourne. There's one in Richmond. There's
You've got a
one
special place that you've downsized into, Joyce?
Yes, and there's also one in Frankston. There's lots of different ones. And
I think they're retirement villages. Is that right, Joyce?
Not really. It's a single house. It only takes 10 people in the house. It's like a share house for
So
older
it's like
people.
a co-housing arrangement.
Yes, and you get all your meals provided, and you just downsize into, you've got a room and an ensuite, and you share, all the other places in
I love that.
the
Thank
house.
you,
And
Joyce, for telling us about
it's just
downsizing. Rachel, do you
wonderful.
want to
Yeah.
comment on the way Joyce has done it?
Yeah, look, co-housing is an increasing trend, and there's some fantastic co-housing arrangements in Victoria. So we have a company down here called Nightingale, and because co-housing traditionally was sort of lifelong friends, and they get together and they build some houses, or they build one house and they share, like Joyce is talking about. They share the common facilities, the kitchen, the dining room and that. And then they have their own private spaces, their bedroom, their ensuite. So co-housing is an increasing trend.
It's heating up here at Olympic Park, ABC Radio. You're with Lisa Leong. Rachel Lane is here from Aged Care Gurus, and we have been talking about downsizing and why you might do it and how long it might take. Your questions, 1300 222 774. When it comes to downsizing affecting our pension, Rachel, what should we be aware of?
Yeah. Excuse me. A lot of people are very concerned that downsizing will cause a downsize in their pension, and you definitely need to factor that in. So don't make the move without knowing what the consequences are going to be on your pension if you get one. So the pension gets calculated under an asset test and an income test, and I often refer to them as a Chihuahua and a Rottweiler. So the income test might bite you first, but it typically doesn't bite you that hard. It's the asset test that most people have to worry about. So when it comes to the asset test, once you go over the threshold, you're going to lose pension. Well, Centrelink will say you'll lose pension at $3 per $1,000 of assets per fortnight. And most people sort of think, that doesn't sound too bad. But the same formula expressed another way is that you're going to lose $7,800 a year for every $100,000 you go over. And a lot of people quickly work out, well, I'm not going to be able to earn that in the bank or on a term deposit. You might be able to earn that sort of a rate on more.
Isn't the tricky part here to do with the primary residence?
Principal place of residence. Yeah, that's right. So because what you're doing is you're selling that asset, then you're freeing up some of the money from that. So you can definitely free up some of the money. For example, a single homeowner can have $301,750, and that doesn't include their home. For a couple, they can have $451,500, excluding their home. So you can have quite a bit of money outside your home before you trigger the pension asset test, but know that once you trigger it, you're in that environment where every $100,000 you go over, you're losing pension at a rate of $7,800. Having said that, for couples, you don't lose the pension entirely until just over $1 million. So $1,003,000 plus your house before you're going to lose the pension completely.
And superannuation, is that counted as an asset?
It is if you've reached age pension age.
Right.
So age pension age now is 67. So if you've reached age pension age, then your super is included. But that's where a younger spouse can come in handy. Because they may not.
Oh, I've got one of those.
Yeah, I don't. Where can I get one? No. So where it can come in handy is because you get assessed jointly on your income and your assets, the younger spouse has their superannuation exempt. So if you're looking at things like the superannuation downsizer contribution, for example, you might want to think about whose superannuation you're going to pop that into based on that assessment, along with other factors.
Now, you're not suggesting we downsize our partner as well, are you, Rachel?
No, definitely not.
No, we're not suggesting that at all. Are there any traps for young players then when we are talking about downsizing and we're considering things like our pension and our superannuation? Have you seen people fall into a bit of a trap?
Yeah, absolutely. It happens all the time, unfortunately. So a lot of people use rules of thumb.
Yeah.
And really common rules of thumb that they'll use are, well, I'm going to sell my house for this and I'm going to buy my new house for that. And there's a difference between those two. I'm going to put some money in the bank and therefore it's affordable. The other rules of thumb that people use, they look at retirement villages and land lease communities that charge an exit fee, and they say, well, the exit fee over there is 30% and the exit fee over here is 25%. This one's cheaper. And that's really dangerous. You know, you've got to, one of the exercises we give people is the ingoing, the ongoing and the outgoing. And it doesn't matter what you're thinking about in terms of your downsizing options, whether it's a granny flat, a retirement community, look at the transaction across ingoing, ongoing and outgoing and avoid any nasty surprises.
Rachel Lane, thank you again. Downsizing Made Simple is the book. Rachel Lane from Aged Care Gurus.